weirdos, motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Man's got to know his limitations.
I love Leo.
Q snatch.
On go.
Q snatch.
What? On go.
Q snatch.
I like wood.
Q snatch.
monster chasing Chip all over the place. Alright, shut the door. And I'm here, folks. I'm coming. I'm almost there. Hold on. Headphones, putting those things on. Gathered in, getting in my seat. There we go. So much fun. And And here we are. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I was just on Steph's show pitching Sexy Liberal this weekend. It'll be up, and you can watch it online. We're going to do a pay-per-view of it, even though it's a live event because it's our only show in 2021. And so next weekend, sexyliberal.com, tickets and all that kind of stuff. Good morning. How's everybody doing? You all right? Hope you're well. Coffee? Something hot? Something warm, something cozy to ease you into your week. Some of you have already been forced into your week. I won't pretend to know precisely, your morning ritual. If you indeed have one, it's none of my business. Have a morning ritual. See if I care. Just don't tell me. Fine. I'm reloading my chat window. Give me 1 second. And we are here. How's everybody doing? Happy Monday. Let's see. Reload. There it is. Good times. So it should be no surprise. There we go. Got that coming through. All right. Hey, there we are. Hi, folks. Good to see you. 9 Central. That's pretty good. Thanks. Yes. Just a little caffeination. I missed you guys too. At certain times though, I was let's see. So Friday into Saturday, I had 1 hour of sleep in 40 hours. I did the math from when I got up on Friday to when I fell asleep Saturday night on the airplane coming back to Las Vegas. I was awake for 40 hours. I passed out for it wasn't even an hour. It's the last 45 minutes of my flight into Philly where I had to fly in to do the SPCA event, for all these dog rescues and that kind of stuff in Delaware. And it's way out at the beach. There's no airport near there. So I had to land in Philly. I rented a car, drive. Oh, it wasn't insomnia. It was work. I'm out of sync. My lips are out of sync. Is that, Yeah? Is the audio off? What's happening? It should be. I did have to restart right after Steph's show for some odd reason and rewire some of the audio because I don't understand. There was there are ghosts, clearly gremlins in OBS. Somewhere between Streamlabs and the Wavelink software is madness. At some point, I'm just going to have to pull everything out and start from scratch because this is just not. It's Internal audio patching is the bane of my existence currently. That said, how are you? I'm good. Excellent. I'm glad. Okay. This coffee with an oat milk creamer that Summer gets sometimes. She likes the caramel version. Hard to find. She got some of the vanilla kind. She doesn't like it really, and she found some more of the caramel stuff. So we have this bottle of it, and now I'm basically the incinerator for all food that will go bad. I'm like the person who lived through the Depression in the house. So anything that's about to go, that strawberry's still got some red on it. It's not entirely green and black. Needs a huge analog mixing console. I agree. I need a big Allen and Heath board, like I'm doing a Lenny Kravitz record. The garbage disposal, my dad was the same. Yeah, you just have to, you can't let stuff go to waste. Just wrong. And parents know this too. If you have a kid, one of the, they always talk about the freshman 15, or now people are talking about the COVID 15. Where's the father 15? And the, because mothers get the ideas that they get baby weight and then it takes time to get it off and that kind of stuff. but there's that extra like 10 pounds you put on just because you're going to finish the food in front of your kid so they know that food is not to be wasted, even if they can't eat anymore. And of course, you know, your heart is the size of your fist, whatever the size of your fist is. It's not the size of anyone else's fist. It's the size of your fist. And your stomach is not the size of anyone else's either. And we do this there, like, at some point, we're going to have to get better at the portioning for children based on things. And it shifts, too, because my kid is eating a ton of stuff because he's growing like a weed. Sympathy weight, is it? Sexist gender narratives? How so? The father 50 pounds, right. Dad bod, is that what that is? Moms get to be scavengers. It's kind of the same thing. Like you're just picking at whatever they've left over. Parents. I feel like you'd come to me for breakfast, lunch, just saying, "Oh, thanks, Dana." I couldn't afford to spend any time eating there. So I land to go to this show in Philly at 6 a.m. I have to be on stage at 10:30. Technically, they made it 11 because they revised the schedule between when I flew out and when they were doing stuff for other reasons. And so I land at 6:05 or something like that. And I, like I said, I've been up all night on the flight. I just was gonna sleep and it just didn't work. There's just I don't know why. It wasn't that shaky a flight. It's just whatever. So I'm awake the entire flight. The entire flight. Except for 45 minutes at the end of it. And then I get off the plane and I'm basically zombified walking down to the baggage claim. I get my bag, which I never opened. Like I packed, you know, because if there was a chance they had a hotel for me there that I could actually do the radio show, you know me, I would just throw all my gear in a thing. And I had it with me just in case. Not counting, I already told them I had to do a best of because it wasn't like... It was going to be threading a horrible needle because I knew I had a 2-hour drive ahead of me and I was going to be, you know, if I finished this event in time, which I didn't, I would have had like the overlap would have been ridiculous. So, and I still had to drive back to Philly and I was going to try and get on an earlier flight so at least I could fall asleep on the plane on the way back. The hardest part of schedules like that is not falling asleep and missing your flight. When I went to the Aspen Comedy Festival with a couple buddies of mine a few times. And then I went by myself once and I was waiting for my flight because I had to transfer someplace and it was in Denver. It was a small puddle jumper up to Aspen. And they moved my gate. I fell asleep and they moved my gate across the hall. So it was literally like gate 14 and 15 and they do odds and evens. So I was passed out on the floor at gate 14, and then they moved my plane to gate 15. And I was like, I'll block the door with my feet. I'll just stick my feet past it. So there's no way they can do it. And I woke up to them going, "This is the final call. Any other passengers going to ask?" And they were just basically yelling at me. I was the only person in the airport. I woke up, the whole airport is barren. And the flight everybody's in there. Everybody's already on the plane. And they're just short of kicking me. Yeah. So, like, they're basically just announcing, "Wake up, idiot." And I was like, grab my stuff and, like, stumbled over. And I'm, like, tear my ticket and run inside and, like, pass out in the... Yeah. Can sleep on... You can? Yes, I can sleep on cement floors. I can sleep anywhere. I did it once. I fell asleep and they moved the gate down the hall, closed the door before I could get down there. It's just horrifying. Because, you know, best laid plans of mice and men, you know, figure, okay, if my feet are blocking the door, they can't board people without moving my stupid feet out of the way. So that'll be my plan. But luckily, the people that were running it thought I was adorable and insisted I be on the plane. Often order burnt toast, weak coffee, and rotten runny egg for breakfast at restaurants. And the waiter says, why would I eat that? I say, I got tapeworms, and that's good enough for them. That's sweet. My grandfather had a running joke that he would always do at restaurants, which is they offer you coffee at the end of the meal. And my grandfather would always say, no, thank you. It keeps me awake while I drive. And he had a bunch of jokes that he would just kind of, they were situational gags that he would always do. And they were very charming. So I have adopted them as part of, like, it's nice to have a traditional family joke or two. Did I make my flight? I made this one. Security wanted me out. Yeah. Thanks, Theodore. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a beverage. Let everybody know in the chat room where you are so we can prove to everyone that this is, that we are truly mega worldwide in the morning. Even still, used to travel 2 weeks of every month. I could sleep anywhere. Yeah. You just get used to it, And then Stuttering John asked me to be on his show on Saturday. And I was driving back at that time. And I was like, I had bigger fish to fry. The largest one, of course, was stay awake. Don't pull over and have to go to sleep on the side of the road because you're in the middle of nowhere. And this, like, Delaware is beautiful, but it's also got a lot of, he went missing countryside. So I was like, yeah, no. And I'm not against, pulling over, sleeping in the car on the side of the road. But I usually, and this is from years as a stand-up on the road, I usually only feel comfortable when I have some weapon in the car. And when I'm traveling, if I was on the road for a good piece, I would buy a knife or a taser or something like that, and I would have to leave it behind because I couldn't travel with it or whatever. Well, I have some of them. Some of the knives I brought home if they were decent, but a lot of times I would just chuck it afterwards. But I always had something in the car if I was falling asleep. I was like, if I wake up and somebody's knocking on the window and he's wearing a Zodiac mask, I'm like, he might get me, but his DNA is gonna be all over the place. That sounded weird, if you know what I mean. You're great on Stephanie's program this morning. Love like a brother from another one. Thanks, Bill. I have a mini dagger. Rubber handgun. The problem is that only works in a fake out. I do have I have a pepper ball gun, which I love, and you can take it anywhere, technically speaking. I have yet to travel with it, although I would not rule it out. I've got a couple of gigs for next year where I'm on the road and I'm driving between gigs. I've got like a New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia kind of chain of gigs that they're negotiating right now. It's like 4 in a row. And then we might, if I might, how you should just have go kung fu on them. Yeah, well, you can do that with a knife as well. It kind of shortens the time. I'm just saying, if it's serious, it's serious. I don't mess around. If it's just a fight, let him have the car. Who cares? But yeah, so I have this thing. You want to see it? I can show it to you guys. I don't know if I'll get a community strike or something, but it's back here on the shelf. It's this guy. It's and I'll probably get a strike on it, but it fires pepper balls. It's a non-lethal. So I have a lot of non-lethal home defense stuff, because it's not because I'm against. Yeah, should I just put I don't have the satire thing up in my thing at all. But yeah, if I don't want to. I have a personal reason why I would want to put somebody down in my own house. We're gonna get a pepper gun. It's educational. Yes, that was educational. It's just explaining something. It's a this one's, what's the name brand on this guy? Blitzing on. It's a Byrna, Byrna. and it looks, it looks like a genuine one, and it is scary for some people, and it stings and hurts and will make them, puke for half an hour, and yet they will not die, and therefore they'll have a chance to learn from their mistakes and not harm anyone else. And a salt gun to go with that pepper gun? Yeah. Is there a honey gun? Yeah. Buffering like crazy. Probably because I showed that. Is that what happened? Yeah. Satire, YouTube. Yes, that's right. When you also get peppered by shooting it? Not if you're far enough away, the idea. But even still, they're going to get the bigger dose than you. And you can clear and whatever. Anyway, so it's, look, life is messy. None of these situations are going to come off like you think they do. There's nothing macho about this kind of stuff. Any kind of circumstance where you're in where you can just run and leave whatever the stuff is, who cares? Any situation where you can break free in a fight or any kind of situation, if no one else is, if this person isn't going to like harm your family or something, if it's just you, beat feet. If you can get away, get away. There's nothing macho about just fighting for the sake of fighting. There's so much that can go wrong, and if you're successful and you do them in, the legal ramifications, it's just silly. So, my dad is currently he tested positive for COVID, and yeah. But he seems to be all right. He goes, he's just quarantining for a couple weeks. So fingers crossed, Oops. I'm going to check on him just while we're here, see if he answers. But yeah, my running is the first martial art. Yeah, exactly. How soon should we be in the studio for the radio show on Saturday? Will you still be able to stream it? Yes, I will. I bring my rig with me so we can stream it. Yeah. It's actually easier because I just pipe the audio from the headphones, which is me and Johnny and the board right out. So it saves me jumping through a couple of hoops. Yeah, Colton Powell, he had myeloma, so it got the immune suppression issues probably from the medication he was on to fight his cancer and keep it from coming back. In theory, I don't know what he was on, but that happens. So he's one of those people that it's not gonna. The vaccination, if it takes, is still going to be less effective. So taking my dad on honor flight tomorrow, first time. Oh, that's awesome, Mark. That's fantastic. Yeah. Let's see. So far, nothing. Probably we'll get to my dad, and he'll be he'll have. He's like, I'm in quarantine. It's just me and the dogs and a golf cart out by the lake or the pond or whatever it is near his house. He'd probably be fishing. Thank you. Appreciate the prayers. Has your dad been in decent shape? Most of his life, he is on dialysis now because he has kidney issues. Hard living. I was lucky in the Sparks family tradition to have an intervention early on where when I was 10 years old, Colonel Sanders baked me a cake on my birthday and said, don't chew no backer and don't drink no booze. And I never have. So, nobody in my family is in I don't think I'm going to qualify this, but I don't think so. No, yes. No one in my immediate or extended family is in a program for drinking or any of those kind of things. But they did enjoy a good tip at certain points in their lives. And there you go. So I appreciate that, Rachel. And just hard country life. It'll just, yeah, my dad will be all right. He's got he's getting to that age where a couple of his friends are really sick, and we talked about it, and it was interesting to have the kind of perspective of my buddy Robert, who passed, Rob Hall. It would have been nice to grow old with him. It would have been nice for us to both be in our late 70s worrying about our health. But I didn't get that. So, there is that slight blessing in that a lot of these folks, they've had more time together. Yes, my dad tested positive for COVID. That said, yeah. Did you ever find out how he died? No. But I believe I know. Hey, kids, don't do drugs and stay in school. My dad is 79. Yeah, Paul Stanley's guitar tech just died of COVID. Just heartbreaking. And I don't know what that guy's story was, because everybody around them was vaccinated insofar as I know. So he may have had other stuff going on. Schriftstellername. Gotta love Dutch. It's always a mouthful. Thanks, Hey Farmer, by the way, on Twitter for telling me what nom de plume in German is. Schriftstellername. It's wirken. Oh, yeah. And Connie, hi, good morning, everybody. I'm just let's see. Yes, thorough vaccination, vigilant mask wearing does not guarantee 100% no one infected or seriously ill. Exactly. There we go. All right, just checking some stuff. Colin Powell, yes. Indeed. Yes, my dad is double vaxxed and probably qualifies for a booster shot, but hadn't gotten it yet. And again, he seems to be doing fine. Fingers crossed. I don't know if my stepmom, his wife, is having to quarantine with or around him or what. I think they're just kind of all in on each other. So, yeah. Yeah, vaccines don't stop the infection from it. They stop you from keeling over from it as best they can and as best you can. They're an additional, and there was a lot of talk about the Joe Rogan Sanjay Gupta lip flap that they did. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me was that Gupta the entire time just looked like he was on his heels and afraid he was going to be called out or something. He just looked weirdly panicked the entire time for no reason. Other than maybe he felt like he wasn't 100% secure in what he was going to be asked about. Or his inability to defend the indefensible because there are unknowns. So you can't defend unknowns in your and if you're, as a doctor, you're going to side with on the most cautious path in terms of, the one that will statistically or be more likely to save lives, which is not necessarily what might turn out later to be the right thing. That's how science evolves. That's how science goes through the discovery process. So he always seemed like that. And then, Rogan made a point about health and obesity in the country, and that they need to make a better statement about getting fit, which is true. However, when you have an acute pandemic, nobody is going to be able to lose if we have 60% of the public is obese or morbidly obese. There's too short a time when a disease like this is spreading and is this contagious to go, all right, no, everybody go to the gym quick. It doesn't work that way. And so that's why getting vaccinated is the overarching conversation, because the majority of Americans are in danger of a worse outcome because of their because of obesity, hypertension, diabetes. It is so prevalent in our society, and it's something that takes a long-term solution. And when you don't have time for that, the entire focus has largely, it has to be on vaccination. Yeah, it's hard to get younger too. Exactly. So, and I think there is a degree of guilt in the sort of anti-fat shaming, body positivity movement that jumps the shark into healthy at any weight kind of zone, where it goes past the logical acceptance of people who have fluctuating body weight and are doing their best, to the point of like celebrating morbid obesity. And once you get to that point, you are, what I would argue, is fit shaming. And if anybody you coax into that way of being is no different than coaxing someone into anorexia or bulimia. These are eating disorder positivity movements, and it's terrible for people. There's a difference between body acceptance and understanding that this might be the best situation you're going to be in. And if you want to look at real body positivity movements, look at amputees and burn victims. These are people who can't, no matter what they do, they're not going to get past that part of it, and they have to deal with people's reaction to them. This is very different from a lifestyle circumstance, or somebody who has a thyroid problem, for example, on both ends of that spectrum. The problem with Rogan making that point, and that, by the way, Fauci and all these guys, the reason they're not bringing up health and fitness is because that's not a quick fix. Telling everybody to run out and do, sit-ups is not going to protect them if this hits them in a couple of weeks as it spreads through the country. It's a ridiculous notion. Now, this is kind of the perfect time to learn from who was killed and who is continuing to be killed beyond the, we are in a pandemic of the unvaccinated, but we're also in a pandemic of the unvaccinated and unfit or immunocompromised or what have you. And those of us that are vaccinated, and the idea that we're masking until we reach a certain level of herd immunity so that there's a way lower chance of passing it on, because you're not encountering it to send it in the first place to someone who can't or won't get vaccinated. And you don't want, even, again, stupid is not a capital offense. All these anti-vaxxers and this stuff, I would argue, a good portion of them are either are just stupid or have light forms of mental illness, and in that way, it's frustrating. It's awful. They should be ashamed of themselves in some cases. However, still not a capital offense. And I'm not going to, just because someone's walking in the street does not mean I'm going to swerve my car to hit them, because people should be smart enough to use the sidewalk, right? Same kind of thing applies. What vitamins are best? Well, you want a good broad spectrum, but obviously vitamin D helps your body deal with lung infections. This is, also largely a vascular disease. So you want, a healthy cardiovascular system. You want to do some strength training. You want to do some exercise. You want to move. You want, yoga helps. You want to, clean up your diet, cut out some processed foods, that kind of stuff. You're not reinventing the wheel. So, everybody knows what a healthy diet looks like without beyond the extremes. What do you say to a relative who says they won't get the COVID vax until there is a cure for cancer? Why would you relate the two? You think they're choosing between the two? You think they're not coming up with a COVID thing? They're wasting money on a COVID vaccine to not cure cancer? You think there's like a magical cancer cure that they're holding back? What a disgusting vision of humanity they must have. Well, Brandy, there are viruses that are linked to cancers, like HPV, for example, that people get vaccinated for. So there are some vaccines that cure your cancer before you get it, is the argument. That's the goal. Is to run that, head that off at the pass, as it were. QAnon ringleader Watson is running for almost guaranteed win, and GOP's Potsdam, Q and Trump's. No, don't worry about him. Because the very people who would vote for him don't think the voting machines work. It's kooky. It's cool going nuts. Don't worry so much. And again, worrying never helps. If you genuinely think he's going to win, then start planning how you attach him to the rest of the GOP, because he will be another Marge Green type that will dog them. He'll be an embarrassment. That's fun. Here you go. Hold on. Check this out. This is kind of happening as we speak. Let me see something real quick. That's.
How are you feeling today, sir?
I'm feeling great. Thanks, man.
I'm convinced. They're just showing Eric getting out of his car. Because his dad.
How are you today, Mr. Trump?
I don't know why. Anyway, but his dad's getting deposed today. Yeah, it's deposition time. So they're all there for moral support. Do I have a military family? Yes. On both my grandparents were in World War II. My mom's dad, I believe, also fought in Korea. And I have one Marine, one Army, on either side. Army on my dad's side, Marine on my mom's side. Al Sparks, please, Lord, make Trump go to jail. Yeah, well, this is they have to pretend they buy American now. So, good times. Can't give you moral support if you don't have any morals. Well, amoral support, immoral support. That's what they're there for, right? Despot day. Finally get vaxxed, and I came out with a bad UTI. I'm terrified to get the vaccine while I'm sick like this. I don't know that there's an overlap in that, because a UTI is bacterial. Yeah, Julie is. Yeah, it's amazing how MAGAs scream about Hunter Biden while Trump Sr. can't even go anywhere without his yes man entourage. Well, there's been a lot of reports of him showing up at Trump Tower alone, like pitifully, strangely alone. Even, obviously, Melania is not around, but there's been a couple of reports about that, which, it struck everybody as like they see him and it's kind of a miserable thing. They're like, it's kind of pitiful. He's like, nobody's around him. Nobody wants to hang. Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Oh, indeed. Does your government still pay for Trump's security every day? Yes. Not the kids, though. I think they only have a limited, like, 6 to 8 months or something like that. So I think they just ran out of coverage. There's like a transition where they can get security if they want or need. The other thing is that they can hang around their dad a bunch, and they've got that kind of protective window around them, so they're pretty much attached at the hip. Yeah, it's over. Theirs is over. Nice, Carl. I think Trump's so spiteful that Melania divorced him after 120 and had her deported secretly. No, apparently she's in Maryland. Camden's great. Happy and handsome. Grown like a weed. My goal is to make sure that he's taller than me. Because, good nutrition will give him some length of bone since he's not more than one generation away from poor white trash, to quote Hannibal Lecter. Let's see. Clicking on these. I have him on a rack. No, apparently nature has him on a rack. I thought you're tall. I'm 5'9". I'm not particularly tall. I'm not short either. I'm an inch taller than the national average, so half the people are shorter than I am. So I feel okay. But in Hollywood, long gone are the days where they would dig a trench for you, for your leading lady. Cool. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Cindy. I try. Oh, thanks. Yeah, this is the studio. It's currently kind of a mess. I'm reorganizing. There's the hamburger phone, the oft-used hamburger phone, one of my many Iron Mans. There's a Lab Rats picture, American flag that I got at Arlington Cemetery's gift shop. There's my boy. Here's the philosophy books I read when I just have a moment to myself. These are all music books that either are about songwriting or are tablature or music books in general. What else? Notebooks over here, and these are just cabinets to hold stuff. And then that's microphones over there and gear. There's a little like drum pad thing. What is my family's nationality? We're Scottish, English, Irish, and French, German, Celt, and Sub-Saharan African, and Native. It's a mist. We would basically sleep. My people will sleep with anyone. This is how it's happened over history. Thanks, Kelly. Is there any way around this Mansion Cinema stuff, or are we doomed? No, there's not a way around it. There's a way through it. Get the program passed. If it needs more money, add more money to it later. This idea that you have to pay for it all up front is part of what's killing everything. Everybody's swinging for the fences because they think it'll be indefensible in 2022 instead of going, passing the programs at 1.5, let's say, matched with the other 1.5 and just getting it through. And it's still less than, Trump's tax cut, for example. And then those programs, like pre-K, making it near universal, meaning anybody who makes under $100,000 a year, everybody else can pay for theirs or add to that part of it or get a child tax credit from another source for it. Yeah, it's over 10 years, exactly. And arguably pays for itself. But what you do is if you know that it will pay for itself, you don't take every dime that it will pay for itself. You overshoot by, by what you expect to come in. That way, if you're wrong, they still stay funded. Dems need to have something left to run on in 2022. Oh, they will. Comprehensive immigration reform is one of them. They'll be running on, hey, you notice how we're no longer in Afghanistan and that mess? By the way, I don't know if you noticed. Let's see if I can find this. See this. Yeah. You know what? Why all the right wingers you're seeing everywhere want us to stay in Afghanistan forever? Because their Russian handlers are pissed that now they have to defend the Tajik-Afghan border. So Russia is sending tanks and all kinds of stuff. You're welcome down there. The road to Dushanbe. Those of you that are aware of the road to Dushanbe, you might know that from the movie Spies Like Us. You will meet your contact on the road to Dushanbe.
Did you hear that? Yeah, it's a dickfer. What's a dickfer? To pee with.
If you've never seen the Spies Like Us, there's a surprising amount of geography and sort of now history of the Soviet Afghan overlap that you can learn. You can, like the Yusufzad and who they were and stuff. There's a lot of that, what aid workers were doing. It's fascinating. And what Russia was trying to do. So anyways, Russia-led post-Soviet security bloc started its largest military drills near the Tajik-Afghan border in years on Monday amid cross-border tensions ahead of talks between Afghanistan's new Taliban leaders and major regional powers. By the way, the Taliban has about as much of a hold on the country right now as the Afghan government did. This, again, Afghanistan is not a country. It's 12 tribes and a big swath of land. The problem is pretending it's a country. I mean, that's the, Dushi what? Yeah. Dushanbe. So, and then, let me see if I can do this. China sends troops. Afghan border. Should be in here. Let's see. I'm going to try and get this news. Right? Let's see if this is here. Well, this is an older one, but I'll see if I can find an article later this afternoon. China's fears increases U.S. troops leave Afghanistan. The border that China has with Afghanistan is now a conduit for there's a terrorist group called EMIT, E-M-I-T, and they are a Uyghur-based, a Uyghur terrorist group. They're just smaller, but they will align themselves with ISIS and ISIS-K against the Taliban because they view them as heretics, and they also, unless Taliban does something like pushes out China because they're playing footsie with the CCP. This Uyghur terrorist group is going to start ratcheting up attacks on them and try to cross into China. 95%, I think it's 95, might be 93%. 93% of Chinese people live in the eastern side of China. The western side, where Xinjiang is and all that kind of stuff, is 7% of the populace. And the Uyghurs themselves are not ethnically Chinese at all. They look, Turkish or Afghani if you meet them. Zero overlap. And the deficit weakens Chinese government's capacity to effectively counter what it describes as the three evil forces, that's what they call them, of Afghanistan-based ethnic Uyghur terrorists, separatists, and extremists. China is obsessed with the possibility such groups could exploit a Taliban victory to pursue cross-border incursions from Badakhshan province into Xinjiang. As the Taliban has gained ascendancy, China's concerns have gone up. So all of the thing you're hearing about, we should have stayed in Afghanistan, we must stay in Afghanistan, and that China and Russia are laughing at us? No, they're not. They were laughing at us while we were dumping money in Afghanistan for a decade and a half after Osama bin Laden was killed, decade and change, and still there all the time, basically protecting their borders by being there. By installing and keeping the Afghanistan government and the military afloat, we were protecting Russia and China from sort of their free excursions into the Afghan territories, both in the drug trade and in, conduit for, military sales and the like. China's concerns are valid. Well, because of their actions. There's no if they weren't doing what they were doing to the Uyghurs, the Afghans wouldn't even be interested. They'd be dealing with the ISIS-K crowd would be fighting toward the Pakistan border, and then there'd be skirmishes on the Iranian border and blah blah blah. But there's a reason why they're squeezing through that little pass to go to China, is because they believe they are freeing their people, which arguably they would be trying to. China's nightmare is that a Taliban victory might embolden the Uyghur armed insurgency group. That's exactly what's happening. That is precisely what's occurring. So this whole idea that China and Russia are laughing at us, every time you hear that on right-wing, shows, Fox or Newsmax, or you hear Trump saying it, or Don Jr. saying it, or any of those guys saying it, these are Russian and Chinese talking points. They want us back in there. They want the UN to put peacekeeping troops in there to cover for them. So UN peacekeeping troops can get killed by ISIS-K and whatnot, while basically as a distraction to keep them from attacking Russia and China. How do all presidents need to be microchipped? Not yet. China's concerns are valid. Religion is poison. What? Chinese concerns are not valid in that term. Religion is not poison in that regard. They have concentration camps where they are scooping up entire families. We're talking somewhere between 100,000 and 600,000 murdered. They are wiping out the ethnic Uyghurs and installing Han Chinese people in that sector. That's what they're trying to do. Religion in China is all state-owned. It's worse than that. It's a mockery. It's basically like I said, unfortunately, if you want to see real Chinese culture, and I'm a big fan, many of you know this, you need to go to Taiwan and, some Chinatowns across the country, wherever your country is. But within China right now, it's a shell of its former self. It is to, current Chinese culture in China under the CCP is like Harley Davidson theme restaurants compared to the actual motorcycle. Cults are poison, religion is possible poison, right? Well, you could argue the atheism of the Chinese government is a poison as well, because sadly, it's so dog eat dog over there. Like Wall Street guys would go, yeesh. What about the missile they just sent around the world and surprised everyone with? Yeah, the hypersonic missile. Yeah, here's the problem with the hypersonic missile, beyond the fact that it can carry a warhead and kill everybody, is that it can arguably could fly low for a period of time and then move up into the upper atmosphere and appear to come from another country. So they could fly it so that it looks like it came out of North Korea, or they could fly it into Russia and make it look like it came from Russia into wherever they're trying to hit. That's the worry. And they have to make you believe that that you should be worried. Taiwan, definitely some areas of SoCal. Yeah, and Toronto and Vancouver have great Chinatowns. If you're referring to anti-theism, that is different. Well, I mean, I don't think they make a distinction. Atheists are not necessarily anti-theists. Well, these are, and their version of it is a material policy of the government. Now, they relaxed it on a lot of the in a lot of the provinces because of the tourism of the temples and the other places, but not because of the actual belief system. It's unfortunately very performative. Not doubting the faith of a lot of, folks over there, but the places you can go to compared to what they used to have, it's very performative. It appears China is denying the hypersonic missile. Agreed. Well, again, these are one of these stories where outside of your locus of control, you have no way of dealing with this. So let the story play out to some degree. And if you can affect some of it by paying attention to who you're electing and dealing with that particular threat, and you're concerned about that, then that should be something that your representatives should be aware of. So you reach out to them and that kind of thing. But panicking about the potential weapon that people, the nuclear missiles are not the problem coming from China. Weaponized biology, literally, and cyber attacks are the big fear currently. Dalai Lama is a true spiritual leader of China. Well, of Tibet, anyways. Atheism is destroying China. Score one for Jesus, except for, Christianity is destroying America. Maybe we should call it a tie. Christianity isn't destroying America. I wouldn't call what evangelicals do Christianity. That's an that's an argument of, is the label true? The Moonies, right? So, mahalo for information, Al Sparks. It helps us so much. I appreciate it, Lynette. Thank you. It's it's important. Like, I just don't know why. How it's amazing to me how much international stuff is just ignored. That when it's actually materially part of the conversation. Like, we're talking about supply chain issues in the United States. It's all over the news. And the conversation starts at ships hanging out at American ports, as if that's where it begins. And I don't understand that. It boggles my mind. Now, everybody's local centric, and even the conversation about Americans think it's all about America. Well, I got news for you. Almost every country you go to, it's all about them. Whatever, I mean, and understand, we call China because it was the Qin dynasty is what unified them, and so that's where the name came from. We call it China. Chinese people don't call China China. They call it Zhongguo, which means middle land, center land, the middle of all things. The world emanates from China, Zhongguo, right? And so the idea that America is sort of idiocentric in terms of how we look at the world is absurd comparatively. And I will say this again. I don't want to be lectured by racially homogenous countries of any sort about how we do things in the United States, where we value religious pluralism and we're doing the hard work of people getting along. Of course, all that stuff happens here. Of course, the cross-racial strife and the cross-religious strife happens here because we bring everybody together. It's a unique experience. Countries that don't have any others in them or actively discourage the others in those countries can go pound sand as far as their, us dealing with our problems over here. But there's so much. The supply chain conversation in the news literally starts with our shelves and boats parked off of our ports. It's super odd. I'm not quite sure why they either think people can't grasp it or they don't grasp it themselves, so they're not passing it along. Confused my husband when I told him Germans don't call Germany Germany, it's Deutschland to Germans. Right. Exactly. We're technically the United States of America because there's multiple Americas. There's North America and South America, and these are the Americas. We're the United States. The United States part is what makes us special in terms of the America part. And the EU is just trying to copy us. Don't bother. Dear Europe, go back to being racially homogenous. No one cares. Stop trying to be the United States. We'll handle it. If people want to live a racially and religiously pluralistic society, they can come to America. It doesn't show up on any DNA test, but if you, have your, Nigeria for Nigerians and Chad for Chadians and Germany for Germans and France for French, because I want, I'd rather go to those places and see what their actual culture is instead of seeing them do a shit job of pretending to be us. That's my own personal feeling about it. I also don't believe there are minorities in America. I think we're all Americans. Doesn't matter what you look like or where you're from originally, you're an American. We are all majority Americans. Your states aren't too united by the sound of it. Well, that's because it takes work. Like I said, we're doing the work of it. Yeah. Bongino's claiming that Hillary gave China the technology to make supersonic missiles they're supposed to have, but deny it was a missile. Meanwhile, Bongino says the U.S. doesn't have it. It's so stupid. Does anybody remember Trump's stupid, where is it? Is this part of it? Let's see. I think I have the...
Hydrosonic, I call it super duper.
Right. That's it. Of course we have it.
Hydrosonic, I call it super duper.
That's what Trump was talking about. You're sick of Joe Manchin? Well, then move out of West Virginia, I would say. You climate will push migration to Mars. You climate? Your climate? What climate? Are you an alien? Do we have an alien in the chat? I'll take a look at the Bongino thing this afternoon. I mean, every time I think he's pegged the meter on stupid, he manages to do it. So he manages to jump the shark that he was riding. Currently in no vax land, no mask land in Central Illinois, right? You're in Planet Bunghole. Where is that? I mean, welcome to Earth, I guess. Butthole! That's fine, It sounds nice. Are you in Central? Butthole! Or are you on kind of like a suburb of? Butthole! I don't know. You'll let me know. Look at that. 604 people just for the Hangout show. That's nice. Thanks, guys. Welcome. Yes, we've spoken about Colin Powell this morning. You live at the rim of...
Butthole!
I understand. Where's that clip from again? It's from The Rock.
How, in the name of Zeus's butthole, did you get out of your cell?
I would argue that's the line that made Nicolas Cage movies a permanent fixture in my home. What choice would climate migrants have? Think about the coastlines and rising sea level. I think 40% of the world population lives in danger zones for that problem. Yes. I mean, humans live near coastlines because of their value for fishing, because of their value for tourism, those kind of things. You were talking about decades of sea rise. And again, this goes to the whole thing about talking about climate change, where Republicans either think it's so far off that it won't matter, or it's or the, you know, sort of the left wing throwing your arms up version of things, where like it's too late. Where I'm not even having kids because the world's going to be over, that kind of stuff. So you got this horseshoe theory of people who have found two different reasons to not give a crap, right? And the conversation around climate change has to be about, and right wingers talk about it like it's that nature isn't doing climate change; it's happening naturally. It's just a naturally occurring thing. It's the wobble of the earth. It's our position to the sun. Fine, believe that. I don't care. I don't need you to believe in the man-made part of it. But how about this? We'll focus on the pollution part that's contributing because we believe that. You focus on getting people who live close to the beach, whose houses are going to be underwater, to move inland. Well, it's a two-tiered approach. Knock yourself out, asshole. If you don't believe that humans contribute to climate change, I'm not going to be able to convince you. You are aware, though, that the water is rising around, say, Miami and the Everglades and Louisiana and shit like that. So maybe, pretend you don't know that climate change is affected by human behavior. I don't care. Go work on the part that you believe in, and we'll meet in the middle. I actually think, and the more I read articles about this stuff and the polling about it, that as the conversation about climate change has gone up, recycling has gone down. And there's a reason, because at some point when it's imbalanced, where the conversation is so hyperbolic and so overwhelming that people just give up, the difference does it make? World's going to end anyways. Who gives a shit if I use styrofoam, right? There's a balance to be struck there. And again, that balance for me is around pollution, which is something somebody can grasp. It's a local thing, or something you can be aware of in another city. And you're like, there's an industry there that I use that I don't even know I don't live there, that makes that city's sky awful. So I'm going to cut back on that where I live. Oil, diesel, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And then take the boats out of the water. Yeah, that's what's setting it off. And just deal with the pollution aspect of it, because that's something people can grasp. If you talk about climate change in a Greta Thunberg way all the time, people give up. I mean, that's what's happening to some degree with COVID, because people were so panicked by it that they're like, well, you got to die of something. I'm not going to die of freedom. That's a factor. And and once you start dealing in large enough groups of people, that's a significant number of human beings who will carry around and spread a disease because they're so overwhelmed. So one of the biggest things we have to fight is overwhelm. Anytime you start making an issue bigger than it materially is, you are contributing to that issue. You are part of the problem. Depending on who you're talking to and their understanding of the circumstance. Thanks, Jacqueline. Yeah, get some rest. Even Murdoch believes in climate change. Right. But the argument is, are we causing it, or is it planet wobble? And again, if they want to believe it's planet wobble, fine. I don't care. We'll work on carbon emissions. You guys work on getting people to move away from the shore so people don't drown. Mm-hmm. They're not overwhelmed. They're manipulated by the orange cloud. I mean, that's a form of overwhelm. I mean, I'm one of those people who believes that, like, you can trace, like, Dennis Miller not being funny anymore and being kind of a miserable bigot to 9/11. Because for some people, watching 9/11 happen was so overwhelmingly shocking to their worldview that it was an impossibility that they never believed could happen, or it just scared them so much that they retreated into this kind of, bigoted and xenophobic fear. And you can, express disdain for this, but you're never going to convince them otherwise if you don't recognize that's where it came from. Zionists can't have a religion and saying claim it as a democracy, or that all lives matter. What? Zionists? What? Oh, I see. Can't have an ethno-state and claim all lives matter or claim it's a democracy. Right. I mean, they're all like that. I mean, you could argue that all religious orthodoxy, for example, is incompatible with democracy. Religious belief isn't, but orthodoxy would be. If you're, cult-like and you have your own set of rules, if you believe in Sharia law, or you're like hyper Amish and you think your town folks tribunal is more important than the law of the land, or you're David Koresh, who believes you can have sex with underage children because the Lord told you to, that is incompatible with democracy. So true about Miller. Only show I ever walked out on in 2003. Yeah. I mean, I saw a bunch of people panic like that. Thanks, moms. I'm glad I could keep you company while you're folding clothes. It's good stuff. And Ella Coolbrad, thanks for following. Cool Jedi Kiwi, thanks for following as well. Ruby Redhead, thank you for the bits. I appreciate that. Walbright, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Don't forget, like and subscribe, thumbs up, all the stuff I'm supposed to say and I forget to do. Nails by Sherry, thank you. I am vaxxed, but on a chemo pill called tamoxifen for breast cancer. I still worry due to immunocompromised, right? Paul Newman, thank you for the super chat. Good to be back. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for jumping in here. Appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing. Don't forget to subscribe on Twitch. We've ducked down below 800 again. We're trying to keep the number up. So subscribe. Hey, Hal, you ever see Joe Bonamassa? Live, have I? Let me see. I mean, I'm trying to think. I want to say I did a show where he performed with us. I did this show at the Fonda Theater in LA. I can't remember if he played that or not. It's just such a mix of people. But yeah, he is very good. Yes, subscribe on Twitch, everybody, and on YouTube. If you use Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe on Twitch. If you subscribe on YouTube, it doesn't cost you anything at all. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We hit the 25,000 mark. We've gained 500 in the last week on top of that. So we're trying to keep that number afloat. Invite him on your YouTube channel? Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, there's some people that just don't want that kind of an overlap. I have thought in the mornings when we're kind of hanging out, this would be a situation where I could have somebody come on with me and have a conversation. Not an interview, but a hang. You know what I mean? It was too toxic on MR this morning. What's MR? Majority Report? Yeah, and guys, this whole stop contributing to the panic on a bill that didn't exist 6 months ago and you didn't even know it was going to be part of the of this year's push. Jesus. Like, it's amazing to me. Half of Biden's bad numbers are lefties thinking he should shove more stuff, down the right wing's throat or whatever. We live in a democracy. I would like to see a president who respects that democracy, and the other people. Like, again, you can have the entire conversation between far left and right, the reasonable argument, the realistic argument from left to right within the Democratic Party. Hence the name. Is it ugly sometimes? Yeah. But we are a consensus society. This ping pong bullshit because Trump did this stuff or there was this illusion. Trump and all those people ran on this idea that Obama shoved stuff down people's throats. Remember that? That was the whole conversation. It's all very sexual and very weird. But the idea was that they're always shoving this thing down our throat. They're shoving this thing down our throat. They talk about that all the time. Which that is not what happened at all. Like, the ACA was available to read. I read the whole thing. Everybody went through it. It went through committee. It was marked up. There was stuff taken out. There could have been stuff in it, but they didn't have the votes, so they got what best they could. And millions of people are alive because they didn't, or not broke, didn't lose their house because of medical bills because of the ACA. So, and again, a bill that didn't exist or wasn't a part of even the reality a year or two before. And looking at how this is playing out, the wailing and gnashing of teeth is just, it's, people need to tap the brakes. Bye, Linda. Yeah, democracy is messy. Hanging with Mike Pence. Hi, everybody. Hi, Sarah. Hi, everybody. I keep pushing some kind of New England tour so I can use my Patreon meet and greet House Parks. Are you listening? Yes. I'll be up that way. Don't worry. Bookings are starting to show up again. Obviously, most of them start in the spring. Some of them are Sexy Liberal. Some of them are my own stand-up, and some of them are Nerd Halen. So it'll be a mix of stuff. We'll end up in that direction. A lot of stuff, I had a bunch of shows that started getting booked again, and they all got punted again once the Delta variant started kicking up. Manchin wants us to continue to burn fossil fuels. I think that's an oversimplification, but I see it. Manchin, what? They are arsonists. Sexy Little's more sexier with how I think so. Magical totalitarian illusion that after decades of right-wing tweaking, some political superhero could just ram things through, give everyone what they want. Right, and they use it both ways. They tell their followers that that's how the Democrats operate, and then they get into office and attempt to do it themselves. Fail, by the way. You want to tell me what's in Trump's healthcare plan? You want to tell me what's in Trump's infrastructure bill? You want to tell, any of those things? What did he ram through other than a tax cut? Which was something that they'd already been trying to do, and it was basically the Heritage Foundation's one that they'd been, carrying around for years. He didn't craft one of his own, but he BS'd his followers into thinking, well, I could just ram stuff through because that's what they were doing. And now Democrats are, especially progressive Democrats, are under the illusion that somehow Trump rammed through a bunch of shit, which he did not do. And therefore, why isn't Joe Biden just ramming stuff through? When we have a 50-50 split in the Senate and a 5-seat shift will give the House to the Republicans, you can understand how they're working across the aisle, not because the Republicans that are in office are legit or are arguing in good faith, but because independent voters like to see this balancing act. And there's enough of them to shift control of the House or Senate or both next time. This idea of like, just ram it through when we have 50 is, you want stuff rammed through? Go get 62 Democrats elected in the Senate. Until then, stop acting like there's this magical mandate. Because we can blame Manchin and Sinema for holding things up, or we can take responsibility ourselves for oddly alienating enough voters to not have a majority, even though the majority favor the programs we're talking about. And good messages have bad shepherds sometimes. It's like the conversation about climate change. If you hammer that home too hard because you're righteously indignant about it, or you're in the activist class and you're talking about it, more people, normal humans with normal jobs and normal lives who don't live and eat and breathe this stuff, will just say, I can't handle that. That's too, fuck that. I don't know. I can't do anything. I don't know. Somebody else will work it out. Maybe one day they'll invent a thing that sucks the carbon out of the air. We'll see. Like mega trees. Right? They'll just give up on it and wait for somebody else to solve it. Because they can't. They can't shoulder it and their lives. So that, Adrian, do you mean we need enough Democrats in the Senate? Yes, we do. Are you and John Fugelsang going to have a hair off? No. We're both going to have a hair on. What? Yeah. Balance is a fantasy. Who voted for Marjorie and Boebert and Gosar? Huh? The people in those districts. That's the House. Kelly, I can barely deal with my life. Right. That's exactly it. A lot of people feel that way. And if you blow an issue up hyperbolically because you feel strongly about it, you're going to swamp it with the average person. And I've said this before, but like, that's why there's no such thing as backlash in our society. Everybody's like, there's a backlash to this kind of thing. Or there's a backlash to trans stuff, or there's a backlash. There's not a backlash to any of it. The activist class who lives and breathes the stuff, often in the messaging, gets out over their skis because they're myopic and they're wearing horse blinders and they can't see anybody else's concerns or any of the weak spots in their argument. So they just, they ram stuff, ahead in their mind. They're just 100% focused on that because that's their morning, noon, and night. And the average person doesn't. So by the time their message gets to that person, the person's going, hang on, what is this? What do you mean by that? How is this? The word backlash pisses me off. Well, it comes from a whip that you are overzealous with and it hits you. Only a Twitter backlash, which is nonsense anyways. And then those are fed by the Chinese, the Saudis, and the Russians, the governments of those countries. Sparksism is the answer. We here embrace complexity. We do not fear complexity. And over time, we develop the skills to be able to explain complex things in ways that are in appetizing bites with good humor and grace for people who are like confused or feel like they've been pushed to the margins by one political stripe or another. I'd be for ramming through anything we can ram through, but we just got to have the votes. You got to get rid of the unconstitutional silent filibuster. I agree. The silent filibuster and the anonymous hold are anti-democratic. But again, we still have to deal with this when our ideas are popular with 68 to 70% of the public, and yet we only have this many senators. It's because we've just gone, well, Wyoming's screwed. What are you going to do? We got to stop doing that. We got to start running Democrats on meat and potato issues in all of these districts. And if, the AOCs of the world want to push a progressive agenda in a blue district that they just managed to make bluer, they have to understand that their jargon is not going to sell in every part of the country. And if they insist that it does, it'll fall apart. Because if it does work, then what you have is another version of a totalitarian hold on stuff like Trump does. You have to use our language. You have to use our slogans. If you say it any other way but our acceptable way of saying it, you're not saying it all, and therefore you're out. And I don't buy it. That's how people end up in cults. They're insecure and fearful, and magical thinking lacks complexity. It's sad. You're right. Agreed. Josh Hawley's the next fascist? He hopes. He wishes. How thanks for breaking it down. I wish people took the time to think before responding. It's a skill like any other. We're all evolving on the social media platforms in the same way that we did over our lives, How what happened Saturday? Oh, I had a show for the SPCA, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, in Delaware, and I was traveling, and there was no way to do my radio show on the road because of that cross. Am I seriously running for mayor? Yes, I am. Of Los Angeles. Yes, I am. Chip was down here before, and then he showed up on Steph's show, but now he's tired because he was up all night and running around. Thanks, Iva. I love my guitars as well. This one will be joining me on the road this weekend. Thanks. I hope I win too, but if I don't, at least I'll get some points on the board for complexity. What is my mayoral platform? I'm running on an I Love LA ticket. That I want to be the mayor of Los Angeles, not the mayor of San Diego, but we call it Los Angeles, which seems to be how everybody else is running. Like LA isn't special. It's just a big city. And that's annoying. Cities have a personality. They have a raison d'etre. They have a reason for being. And a lot of people ignore that when they're running for the city. Not all of them have it. And the ones that lose it, go bye-bye. Ask Toledo. Ask Cleveland in many ways. The Randy Newman ticket. That's right. Thanks, Lynette. Is Randy Newman going to license a song to you? Probably not. I'm doing it as the as an I Love LA or like a I Love the 80s reference for me. What would my ideas be for the homeless? Well, it's a 3-tiered problem, if you want to simplify it. You have mentally ill and drug addicted people who need institutional help. You have people who've fallen through the cracks, need job training and a secure place to live for them and their families while they pick themselves up after a massive hit. And then you have drug tourists who are camping on the streets. And pretending they're all one group is detrimental to 2 out of 3 of them. They're not all the same. And I would argue that the drug tourist campers who are living in tents all over the place, a good portion of them are not indeed homeless. They are Burning Man themselves. It's a version of Burning Man for them. And you have to address each of these things. You can't be afraid to. You can't address that and feel like, well, if you talk about that, because it's a real problem, people are going to think that the mentally ill people are like those people and then have no sympathy for the mentally ill people. Or the people who've fallen through the cracks are mentally ill and therefore are not going to get any of the services they need. You have to be able to talk about the broad swath of people and have available plans for the different people. Homelessness is an experience. They are not a tribe. People talk about homeless people as if they're a race. I mean, even the phrase homeless people is ridiculous. So that's the issue I have with the conversation in Los Angeles. And it is, there's a lot of the flag of Los Angeles sucks. See the TED Talk? All right. Chicago has the best city flag in the country. Just saying. Affordable housing is a major problem. No, it isn't. Well, it is in the middle class. Middle class housing is a real problem. there's so little middle class housing that for a single mom or a single dad and kids who are trying to go to a school and all that kind of stuff, they're priced out of the market so much that they get pushed down into the low rent apartments where you're spending $1,500 on an apartment that indigent or homeless people used to be able to get on a Section 8 voucher. So it pushes them down. You need a balloon of the middle part, because you're not going to put the homeless in the big houses in Beverly Hills, and you're not going to, and the homeless people themselves aren't going to be able to maintain the rent on something that's now $1,500 because they could drive up the rent. You have a vacancy problem in Los Angeles because of foreign investment. Vancouver just passed a rule about, residential foreign investment vacancy. See if I can come with this. So yeah, this is bill. This is in Vancouver, BC. They put forward a bill called Bill 28, and I think LA needs one of these. This is the Miscellaneous Statutes Housing Priority Initiatives Amendment Act, something along these lines. It wouldn't, obviously, there's different legal ramifications in Canadian law versus American law, but they have a vacancy tax on vacant residential property that stays vacant for a certain amount of time, and a foreign buyer's tax. Amendments to the Property Transfer Tax Act imposing an additional property tax of 20% on all residential property purchased by foreign buyers. Amendments to the Real Estate Services Act discontinuing industry self-regulation on the real estate industry and creating a new housing priority initiatives special account to fund initiatives in respect to housing, rental, access, and support programs with the new tax revenues resulting from the law. You have a lot of buildings in Los Angeles that are empty because do the Chinese have much to do with the vacancy problem? Yes, they do. Well, basically, corrupt CCP officials hide their money in the U.S. and Canadian real estate market. But no one lives in the houses, and they don't rent them out or anything. So there's entire floors of buildings that are vacant that if they were allowed to be rented, the price of a rental would go down because there'd be more volume. And it's significant enough that Vancouver is having to pass a law about this. And LA needs a law similar to that. If a second property, when you fill this form out, you pay this extra tax on it unless you're renting it out. Exactly. And if it's been vacant for a period of time, if you put that tax on it, and even if they pay that tax for a period of time, if it stays vacant and they just pay the tax because they're rich assholes and they're foreign investors, they either have to sell it to an American investor or it's reclaimed by the city. Because that's ridiculous. I mean, there's materially, I'll give you an example. The Belt and Road Initiative that China's doing, or Russian intervention in Uzbekistan, or their adventurism in Ukraine and the like. One of the ways you destabilize a society is, in their way of doing it, is pretty simple. Ratcheting up homelessness by guaranteeing there aren't enough houses, by investing. Let's say you could build a warship for $3 billion, like a brand new warship. Or you could, through a series of LLCs, buy up $3 billion worth of real estate in a major city center, driving up the price of rentals, leaving those places vacant, and causing social destabilization. What's a better investment? Because radar will spot the ship, but nobody's looking at that foreign investment in the housing market. Saudis do it. The Russians do it. They're like the King of Jordan did it in Malibu. Thanks, Robin. Well, one of the strategies was to use containers to temporarily house them. That didn't work. Yeah, well. Tom Hartman talked about this too. Yeah. Well, you can't, if you pay any attention to it, eventually it's going to catch up to you. Oh, yeah, no, the new MacBook launch is happening. That's right. Hold on. The keynote's occurring. I'm very excited. 10 a.m. Pacific. Oh, we missed. Yeah. Watch the event. Is it live or are we watching from the time?
What have we done? And
Oh boy.
importantly,
Oh boy.
what will you do?
Oh boy.
So that's the new MacBook Pro. We couldn't be more excited about what this groundbreaking system can do. It allows pros to unleash their creativity in ways that were previously unimaginable. And is for anyone who simply wants the world's best notebook. When you compare the 14-inch model to the previous high-end 13-inch MacBook Pro, you get a giant leap in performance, up to 7 more hours of battery life, a larger display with XDR,
Nerdy.
an advanced camera, high-fidelity audio, and more ports, all for $19.99. And when you compare the new 16-inch Pro to the previous model, you also get a massive boost in performance and capabilities for $24.99. Both models are available in silver and space gray. You can order it today, and it'll be available next week. Today, we've completely redefined
Now that he said it, it's all
Apple
gone.
Silicon with M1 Pro and M1 Max. They are
Wait.
by far the most powerful and capable chips we've ever created, and there's never been anything like them.
Wait, what's
Together
Pro
with
versus?
M1, they form an incredible family of chips that leads the industry in performance.
I guess this is the biggest one,
and power
Max.
efficiency. The new MacBook Pro joins the 13-inch Pro with M1 to create the strongest lineup of Pro notebooks we've ever offered. And with this introduction, we've taken another huge step forward in the Max transition to Apple Silicon. Now back to Tim.
Tim Apple. We all know Tim Apple. You guys know Tim Apple, right? These nerds are going to have a hell of a time when they have to go back to hanging around with real people. You just shoot these cool videos and just pretend we're all hanging out.
What a huge day for the Mac and our Pro users. These
Please tell me you have a Mac lawnmower.
ever built, and the best example yet of the extraordinary performance and capabilities we can deliver when
The
we
new OS is called Wetlands.
silicon with the power of Mac OS. Today we focused on 2 areas very dear to us, music and the Mac, and the creative spirit fueled by each of them. At Apple, creativity is so incredibly important to who we are and what we do. Designing products that empower our users as well as enable them to be inspired by the creativity of others. It helps drive our teams to continue pushing things forward, to create products.
Yeah, just tell me if browser sources will work in Streamlabs.
To take a moment to thank everyone here at Apple for their unbelievable effort this year.
Well, it's completely believable. I mean, you need more effort because it's been rough.
Take care, stay safe, and have a great day.
Don't tell me what to do. That was it? I got the tail end of it? Production, health, and safety. That's the first team. I'm not playing the song and getting on the hit. Can I not scroll back through it? I know it's live now, but crap. Can't start at the top? Boo! I'll have to watch the end of it later. I mean, I'm over time anyways. Couldn't imagine spending that money on a Mac. I'm a big fan of for music software and for editing. I've had an amazing experience with the Mac. As far as the Adobe suite and Final Cut and all, there's a shorthand that I have. It's fantastic. The Unreal Engine, though, I have on the PC that I'm running on the show on now, and it's amazing. I just think Windows looks like crap. Just uninviting. It looks very 8-bit, as far as the UI goes. I'm sure there's a way to upgrade it, but ugh. Seriously. I mean, UI is a big part of it. I mean, we all live in Claude Shannon's user interface in the Matrix anyways. Did I say that? Yeah, you guys know that, right? You know that Obama's science advisor, who was a guy who focused on string theory, which is crap, but still, I think it was at Baltimore, University of Maryland, Baltimore, or whatever, was his main science advisor, said that in their discovery, they discovered strings of ones and zeros written into the fabric of the universe, and that they weren't just random ones and zeros. They were the kind of ones and zeros you would find in a browser interface, which would be a UI, a user interface, and that it was very specific code written by a guy named Claude Shannon, who worked with Alan Turing, but created the first UI that was really functional, and may have indeed built a computer that was so fast, it was so good so fast, that we all now live in a simulation. Yeah. Why is string theory crap? Because it just doesn't hold up. But I mean, you have to understand, they're going to run aground in discoveries in all these areas. String theory, just its base equations are off. It's too far. I mean, do we want to dive into it? Do we want to do the... But just trust me, there's no there. Also, it's turning out that Einstein was wrong about the speed of light. So apparently, there are lots of planets that are moving away from the center of the galaxy at the speed of light and aren't changing mass. Dark matter matters. I don't believe in dark matter or dark energy. I think it's spackle. I think it's the modern scientific equivalent of saying the ethers. There was a time when they were talking about science, they would go, this exists. We know this exists. We know this exists. And they're attached by what we call the ethers, right? And now the ethers is dark matter. And like each time they try to make up for the fact that the science itself is based on mathematics, and the universe is not fundamentally mathematic. Mathematics is just a language, and as any Buddhist will tell you, language fails you at some point. Can you do the simplistic version of string theory? Not really. Especially as you start getting into the later discoveries and how quantum theory and the juxtaposition of multi-dimensions creates overlap, and that it's just, that's why it falls apart. It's not, yeah. I'm going to lose my screen. It's a linkage of particles where everything is tied together. Essentially, all things are connected but the math doesn't bear it out. And therefore, everything, since it's all connected, becomes one thing. That's why it can happen all at once. And it's it attempts to mathematically solve, I guess, Bell's theorem, in where you have an object existing in two places at once, which is a material impossibility, but it happens. And string theory was trying to going, well, it's all tied together. There's magical strings that attach to it all, and we just can't see them yet. And they've got to be there because these things, this can't be two things in two separate places. It has to be one thing with a string between it. And I mean, that's as oversimplified as I can possibly get. Use the force, right? Yeah. Hold on. Let's see if I can bring up something that, like, a piece of, because there's some art that kind of explains it, and that's how Buddhism works a lot too. Let's see. That's terrible. Yeah, it's in many ways, string theory came around as a way to explain the gaps in our mathematical understanding of things. Instead of saying that math is not the thread of the universe. How we use math primarily as a measurement tool, and the derivations of that math runs aground eventually. It only is useful up to a point, just like language is only useful up to a point. Buddhism is a marketing wing? Yeah. Am I talking about quantum entanglement? Yes. It's an explanation of quantum entanglement and an attempt to mathematically identify where in between the quantum entanglement, the actual existence of the particle, be it this one or this one, which are the same thing, and anywhere in between also exists at the same time, and therefore everything squishes. It's just, physics is like sex. Sure, it may give you some practical results, but that's not why we do it. Exactly. Yes. Simulation theory is dumb. Well, not necessarily, because it's much closer to Occam's razor in terms of the gaps in our understanding than string theory is, or even general relativity. Do not try to bend a spoon, for that is impossible. Only try to realize the truth. What's that? That there is no spoon, right? Tell that to Ant Farms. Made it through calculus in college. Mind you, took me twice to pass it. Yeah, calculus, geometry spatial, and therefore you can understand sort of the equation of it. Calculus gets into the language of math, and there's some of it where you get dangerously close to take my word for it. And there's so many places where they're like, well, this turns out to be this. We're not sure why. I'm like, dude, these are your numbers. If you don't know why, then how can you be sure this turns out to be this? Maybe your observation is the problem in this part, and your previous math that has this gap between what we observe and what you've measured is that your measurement tool doesn't work for what you're doing. It's aggravating. Like I've had this argument. It's as futile an argument for me to have with people as my thing about synthetic intelligence versus artificial intelligence. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence. If it becomes intelligent, it's synthetic. You synthesized intelligence, it's not fake. If it's artificial intelligence, then it's not actual intelligence. It just can mimic it well, which would be the Turing test idea, which is totally stupid. Because that's when we know we've got AI, is it can convince a person. You ever seen a person talk to a puppet? It doesn't take long. You could see someone really talking with a puppet, and then eventually everybody will start talking to the puppet like it's really there. It doesn't take long for a grown person to talk directly to a puppet as if it's there and have a connection. And we got someone who believes AI is bullshit. Yes. We have to keep downplaying Kamala until after 2022. What? Downplaying her? I didn't know there was going to be math. I apologize. It's far too early. And it's 11, so I have to sign off. I will see you guys later for the regular show. Look at that. Right on the nose. I will see you guys later. There we go. I will see you guys later for the regular show at 3 o'clock Pacific time. We will have a good time. Thanks for hanging out in the morning show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. We're here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays because I work out Tuesdays and Thursdays during the morning. The other days, I just kind of move it around. I like this kind of conversation, though. I'm a big fan of discussing these things. And before I get into a scientific version of the Midwestern goodbye, I'm going to just say goodbye for real. So I will see you guys later. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. We'll see you later.
I had a beat off.
I love lamp.
Man's got to know his limitations.
I felt really good almost after taking it. better than a brick because you can't throw a brick. It's too heavy.
Captain's log.
Entirely too many troublemakers here.
I'm dead sexy.
Something strange happened to me this morning. Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sun god robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little pickles at you? No. Why am I the only person that has that dream?
I have 9,000 computers.
I am your father, Luke. Give in to the dark side of the Force, you now.
Dr. Evil. Dr. Evil. Dr. Evil. Guy talk!
Would you classify that as a launch problem or a design problem?
He has name!
So that's the kind of fight it's gonna be.
I'll use small words that you'll be sure to understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my underground lair.
Feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
It's not Irish. It's not English.
Oh, yeah. Fair, what is the kindest with horses, you know?
It's just, well, it's just piking.
Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
Michigan gave us Motown. Action replays in magnified fortune. People want other people to stop shooting and knifing people to death. They're de-engineering action replays in magnified fortune. Legal, for Iowa values, corrupt political crass. Action replays in magnified fortune. When they gaze upon Yosemite, action replays in magnified fortune. They just explode. Free healthcare for illegal. De-engineering. De-engineering. Action replays in magnified fortune. First new branch of the U.S. Armed Forces in 75 years. Space Force. Not since the some people agree, and many people don't agree, but I think most people very much agree. And then voila. replays in magnified fortune.
5 eggs.
Q-snack.
On go. On go.
I had a beat off.
5 eggs.
I had a beat off.
Q-snack.
I had a beat off.
I like wood. I like wood.
5 eggs.
Deeper and longer.
What?
Deeper and longer.
What? Q-snack.
Wow.
On go.
What? What?
Wow.
I know you aren't allowed to talk, but I don't see either one of them jumping up and saying I'm wrong about that.
Wow.
Q-snack.
I had a beat off.
Brett Kavanaugh.
I had a beat off.
Brett Kavanaugh.
I called the stroker.
I had a beat off.
On go.
What?
5 eggs.
What?
5 eggs in a month.
What? What?
The biggest loser is the state with the shortest dick.
What?
I like wood. I like wood.
People coming over with bags of soup, big bags of soup. We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges. Roll up. Roll up. Roll up. You know, this is soup for my family. They're so innocent. This is soup for my family. We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges. Climb over each other's face. You can climb right over their face. You don't have to wear masks. You don't have to do anything. Action replays in magnified fortune.
I like wood.
I had a beat off.
Wood.
I had a beat off.
5 eggs.
I had a beat off.
Wow. Wow.
That's great psychology. Why don't you just say something bad about my mother?
Am I getting through to you? Alpha!
This is 100% fact here.
Maybe his new name should be Taliban. Uh-huh.
What? I don't know. That's the kind of thinking you've got. That's the kind of thinking you're supposed to be voting for, I guess, huh? What?
Transvestites. Transvestites.
I had a beat off.
Transvestites.
What? like an idiot. Here I am like an idiot.
I called the stroker.
I had a beat off.
Winston Churchill stood on the rooftops in London, very calm, making speeches. Winston Churchill.
So we're going to get it going to a level that nobody can ever turn course on us, nobody can ever change. Pyramisia. 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 Hydrosonic. I call it super duper. And then voila.
I don't read, obviously.
I have a mouth who wants to save our country.
I don't read, obviously.
They don't like the gas. They don't like the gas.
The sportos, the motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.